Take the fifth. What does that mean? Should you do it? Hi, I'm Jeff Hampton with the Hampton Law Firm. Today I want to talk to you about taking the fifth. Everybody talks about that. What does it mean? Your Fifth Amendment rights. By the way, if you wait around to the end of the video, I'll also give you a free ebook, What to Do If You've Been Charged with a Crime. Now, let's jump right into this. We talk about taking the fifth. We're talking about the Fifth Amendment to the United States Constitution. Here's the thing. In the United States, you have a right to not admit to anything. So you have a right to not only refuse to talk, but certainly also not to admit to something. Either way, whether you're guilty or you're innocent, you can refuse to talk to the police. Legally, you can refuse to answer the detective or a police officer's questions if you are being investigated. Now, in fact, if you don't take the fifth, here's the key. People say, well, should I or should I not? Let me tell you what will happen if you don't. If you don't take the fifth, every word you say will be used against you by the police officer calling you, all right? So notice I said take the fifth. We talk about take the fifth. What does that mean? Well, that means if you don't invoke this right, then you don't get the benefit of the right. A lot of people say, well, I have my rights to this or my right to that. Well, this is one of those rights that you have to invoke. You have to exercise that right. You have to say, hey, I exercise my Fifth Amendment. I'm not going to talk to you. I have a right not to answer your questions. So you must invoke the right so that you'll get the benefit of the right. So here's what you say. I take the fifth, and then be quiet. Because I'm going to tell you, I've seen a lot of people say exactly that. They'll say, I'm going to take the fifth, and then they'll keep talking. And they'll keep talking. Or an officer at that point, if you keep talking after you say you're going to take the fifth, then now there's going to be reasonable expectation that you want to continue the discussion or the interrogation. So take the fifth and be quiet. Don't talk anymore, all right? Now, if you invoke your Fifth Amendment right, though, will you look guilty? No, absolutely not. That's what everybody worries about. Well, if I don't call the officer, if I don't talk to him, if I don't answer his questions, won't I look guilty? No, you have an absolute right to exercise your Fifth Amendment right, and it cannot be used against you in a court of law. All right, now, I'm going to break this down into an analysis, two parts. One, what if you're innocent? Number two, what if you're guilty? Now let's talk about this for a second. What if you're innocent? What if you've done absolutely nothing wrong? A detective calls you and says, hey, listen, I need you to come down to the office and answer some questions for me so that I can figure out what's going on and see about clearing your name. All right. Now, first of all, let me just say this. If a detective's calling you wanting to ask you some questions and wants you to answer those questions, please be aware he's already got something in his back pocket and he's planning on setting a trap for you, and he's not going to just let you tell your side of the story. So let's examine a few of the options you have available for you in this situation. Number one, what do you do? Okay, let's say you go to the office. You just say, okay, no problem. I'm innocent. I didn't do anything wrong. I'm headed your way. You go right down to the office. Your whole plan is to do what? Explain what happened. Say, no problem. I've got nothing to hide, right? Give me everything you got, detective. Tell me what's going on. And then what happens is, though, what you're going to realize is that your questions that are going to come at you, this interrogation, they're not going to be open-ended questions. In other words, the officer's not going to sit down with you and say, tell me what happened. Instead, you're going to have an officer say, look, we already know what happened. And they're going to start asking you direct questions. And they're going to be asking you closed-ended questions like, isn't it true that this is where you were at on this night? We already know that this happened on this day in question. So what'll happen is you'll start, whoa, so I'm supposed to say yes? I'm supposed to say no? If I don't say yes or no, what does that mean? Understand, it's almost like you're being cross-examined during a jury trial when you walk into an interrogation with a police officer, particularly when you're innocent. Now, they're not going to let you tell your story. So it's not like you're going to be able to walk in there and just spout out a narrative. It's going to turn into a complete interrogation. And here's the worry that I have. People call me all the time and say, yeah, but I'm innocent. Shouldn't I go in and tell my story? Well, what if the officer misinterprets you? What if that detective not only either misinterprets you, but intentionally manipulates it? Or what if the detective is listening to you talk, but then starts to read your body language? What if you start saying, well, he told me this, but I could tell he started to have a little sweat on his forehead. I thought this was the behavior of someone who looked guilty to me. Well, they're writing everything you say down. They're not only writing what you say down, they're writing what you do and your behavior down. And they're judging you. Everything they see from you and their mindset is a sign of your potential guilt. They can use that to establish probable cause against you for a possible arrest, okay? Now, here's the other thing that they'll do. Maybe you're not going to answer the direct question. A lot of times the issue might be consent, whether maybe it's a sexual assault, maybe it's another type of offense where now it's all about, did this person have consent to do this? Well, they may not ask you the direct question, but they may ask you questions surrounding it, like, you know this person, don't you? Well, yeah, I know them. Okay, were you with them on the date in question? Well, yeah, I had gone by and talked to them. So as you do that, they're actually painting a picture of all the surrounding facts to make the witness look more credible who's trying to testify against you. Be aware of these. These are the tactics and techniques used by detectives. Okay, so the first option is go to the office. Number two is, what if you no-show? You say, I'm not going at all. Well, at least under that scenario, the officer is left with what he has. He either has enough evidence against you or he doesn't have enough evidence against you. But here's what will happen. One of two things. He'll either just issue an arrest warrant against you or he'll drop the case. So he either has enough evidence or he doesn't have enough evidence. Here's the worst part for you though. If you no-show and you just ignore the officer, this thing's hanging over your head. You have no idea if there's a warrant coming for you. You have no idea if the detective's continuing to do investigation, trying to get information from other people. It's just there's a lot hanging over your head, and a lot of people don't like that, particularly first-time offenders. They don't want to be worried about getting pulled over on their way home from work for something they didn't do, okay? Now, your third option is to hire a lawyer. Here's the benefit. You have a Sixth Amendment right to counsel, just like we talk about take the Fifth, you can also take the Sixth. And taking the Sixth is hiring a lawyer and exercising your Sixth Amendment right to counsel. Under that option, you answer no questions. You don't have to talk about anything. The attorney calls for you and provides information that may help clear your name, or at a minimum, you can get a feel for what this detective's trying to do against you. Everything your lawyer says is hearsay and cannot be used against you in court. Everything you say can be used against you in court. And that's the distinction here. You want an attorney to play the role of a firewall or kind of like a buffer between you and the government. So that way they can't just take whatever you say and twist it and turn it against you. A lawyer can also help you, even if that detective is persistent and won't look at the evidence. The lawyer can at least assist you with finding out if you have a warrant and help walk you through the process of how to take care of that warrant so that you're not caught unexpectedly. Okay? Now, that's if you're innocent. What if you're guilty? What if you did do something wrong? Let's talk about this. Detective calls you, does the same thing. What do? Well, let's talk about if you go talk to him, right? If you're guilty, even if you did it, let's say you go talk to him. The detective, here's what's going to happen. The detective's going to confront you with evidence that you're not going to have a good explanation for. All right? It's only going to hurt your case. So he's going to present information to you, and you're not going to know what to say. And if you try to explain yourself, if you try to walk around it or give an alternative explanation, you're going to look guilty. If you stop talking, think about that. What if he asks you a question and you just quit talking? Well, now he's going to look at your body language, and he can use your unwillingness to talk as evidence of your guilt unless you take the Fifth. So if you choose to take the Fifth, you can now say, it's not that I'm hiding anything, it's that I need to speak to my lawyer, okay? So saying nothing looks suspicious unless you take the Fifth. Now, what if you're guilty and you no-show? Well, if you no-show, get ready for a warrant, right? There's going to be a warrant go out for your arrest. Or you can hire an attorney. And just like I talked about before, the same benefits that you had if you were innocent of the charge, you obtain the same benefits if you hire an attorney, even if you are guilty of the charge. An attorney, you do not have to answer questions from that detective. You leave that up to your attorney. Your attorney can try to do all that they can to help your case, but all that your lawyer says cannot be used against you because it's hearsay. And the lawyer can help walk you through the process. So listen, I say this, I brought this video up today because I have more questions about the Fifth. What does that mean? What should I say if somebody calls me or if a detective calls me? And so I just wanted to get it out there right now. Remember, take the Fifth, but it's not something that you get automatically. You have to exercise it. Take the Fifth and be quiet. All right. Now, I promised you a free ebook, What to Do If You've Been Charged with a Crime. Click on down to the bottom of the YouTube video, and I'll be happy to send that right over to you. I want to thank you for joining us here today. I'll see you next time on our next video series.